court, unless you want me to discuss the merits of the matter before court.
So then what's your relationship between you and the ousted, impeached deputy president?
As it was before.
Are you friends or not?
We are good people, we're good friends. I have no reason to complain in the past, present, and even in the future.
Was there a handover?
Yes.
An official handover?
Was there an official handover?
There wasn't an official handover because the former deputy president is in court. You wouldn't expect him to hand over if he's in court.
Your Excellency, which IEBC cleared you? Did you take your papers there? How were you cleared by the IEBC?
There is no requirement to clear a deputy president who ascends to office by virtue of Article 145 read together with 150.
But the
What requires the clearance of IBC is the president and the deputy president in an election.
The President's memo to Parliament, Your Excellency, indicated that
There
your
was no
nomination
election.
was cleared by IEBC.
There was no election. I assumed office through a process different from a process following an election.
Is it an indictment of the judiciary, Your Excellency? Because the former deputy president, through a court process, is actually outside. We have the governor of Meru, who is in office, even through a similar process. What kind of jurisprudence is that creates two forms of justice in your own understanding? And this is from a point of view as a law professor.
First, the two cases you have cited were beneficiaries of court injunctions. The only difference is in one, after the inter partes hearing of the matter around whether or not the injunction should be preserved. In one case, the court found that the injunction needed to be lifted. In the second case, which also there has been an injunction, the court found yesterday that there is no need to lift the injunction. That's the only difference. And it happens in courts all the time, not just in Kenya, all over the world. In fact, the finding of one court is in many cases overturned by the next court the following day. So there is no inconsistency whatsoever. That is judicial practice. A judge, even one bench of 3 judges, one judge will say this, 2 other judges will say different things, on the same subject matter, same articles, same evidence, same parties. That's how, that's the independence of the judiciary is not just institutional. It is individual, it's decisional. Every judge carries decisional independence.
Your predecessor, Your Excellency, says the reason you ascended to this position is because you are a yes man. You cannot mount any challenge whatsoever to the president. I'm putting this question to you tonight. Are you your own man? Are you a yes man?
I am my own man. On the second issue, I would like to respond as follows. My understanding of the role of the deputy president is not to challenge the president. It is not in the Constitution. It is not in any law. It is not in any practice. That is not the job description of the deputy president. As to whether the deputy president can advise the president, the answer is yes. The oath of office I took has a clause that asks me to faithfully advise the president when my advice is sought.
So then where does your allegiance lie? To the people or your appointing authority?
My allegiance lies on the oath of office I took. You look at the oath of office, it will tell you where my allegiance is.
And are you proud of the
people of Kenya, to the nation and the national interest? And when my counsel is sought by the president, I must give it faithfully. And faithfully doesn't mean that I do it on the podium.
Does it
but
mean?
It means I have to be faithful, and faithfully means it could be different from what the president thinks.
DP, are you proud of the manner in which you became deputy president? In 2022, you were a front runner to be running mate to Dr. William Ruto, but you did not get that position. And you actually said you were going to take a break from politics. Are you now proud that 2 years down the line, you are the one who has taken that position after the impeachment on the person who was picked over you?
I have no regrets for my occupying this space because I have no reason to regret. It is true I was a front runner to be deputy president in 2022 through a process that was conducted by my party. I was not successful. My brother, GACHAGUA, was successful. I congratulated him, and I said two things. One, that I will support the campaign, the presidential campaign, until 8th or 9th of August 2022. And after that, I will take a break from elective and appointive positions.
But you still took the CS
Just a moment.
position.
Just a moment. After I made those two very important decisions, which I made after soul searching and consulting everyone who needed to be consulted, my party and its leadership met and persuaded me as a member of the party, because I didn't say I'll leave the party. I said I'll campaign for President Ruto and his deputy, but after that I'll not be running for any office. I'll take a break for 10 years. And therefore, the party met and persuaded me to change my mind and accept an appointive position as Minister for Interior, which I accepted. That's all.
Are you the kingpin of the Mount Kenya region?
Which office is that?
Of course, you were endorsed.
You were
by a
endorsed
section of-
by a section of
Yes.
members from majorly the East, where you hail from. You never dismissed that.
Which office is that?
Your Excellency, other than the kingpin issue, there are a majority of members of parliament who met in Nanyuki from the Mount Kenya region, that is before you ascended to the office of deputy president, and endorsed yourself as their link in government.
To the executive.
You have ascended to that office now. Are you now, have you ceased being their link?
Maybe you should ask them. Because I think the members of parliament, because I didn't say it, they said it. So maybe they can say it again if they wish, but to the best of my recollection, those members of parliament had expressed frustrations in getting their constituency development agenda through to government because of the breakdown of relationship they had with the former occupier of this office. And therefore, they asked me whether I could convey their needs to the president. And because I was a member of the cabinet, I saw no problem with that. But whether or not they would continue asking me to convey their messages, it's up to them to decide.
Your
You come from
Excellency.
that region. Sir, you come from that region, the Mount Kenya region. Tharaka Nithi, where you come from, is nestled in Mount Kenya region. I want to know, because Kenya Kwanza had promises it made towards the people of that region. So who will be pushing for the implementation of these promises?
That region, like other regions in Kenya, has very many elected leaders. The office I occupy now as deputy president is an office of the Republic. Unlike other leaders, for example, who have a subnational mandate. And therefore, the way I see it is that the people from the region you're referring to, which happens to be where I was born and raised, have a right, just like the people from the coast, Western, Nyanza, Rift Valley, Northeastern. they have a right to use this office, because it's a national office, to channel their needs, interests to the government. So I see no contradiction. I see no change of position. And the only thing I don't understand is this thing about the kingpin or something. I don't understand it because there is no office like that.
Well, and are you still hopeful, and do you think there is a possibility of you becoming William Ruto's running mate come 2027?
How would I know?
Your Excellency, then you've talked about development and, those members of parliament using this office to lobby for development. Shouldn't then development be a democratic right so that then there is no need to lobby and to push for it?
That's not true. The reason you have subnational representation of political leaders, members of the National Assembly, members of the Senate, their mandate is subnational. A member of the National Assembly represents the interests, priorities of the constituency where they are elected. Of course, in the context of a broader national perspective, because some of the things that they want them passed are not projects and programs, they are legislative in nature, and you require the parliament as a whole to support you. For example, recently we had a Sugar Act sponsored by a member of parliament from Western Kenya, where sugar is mostly grown. But it required the votes of the member for the members from Northeastern Coast, where there's no sugar, and Central, to pass it. So the point is this: it is not true to say that a member of parliament does not need to articulate the interest of their people, because they are elected purposely for that. They are elected to articulate those interests and convey them either to the executive, to the legislature, and make sure that those interests at that local level are realized.
During your inauguration, when you took oath of office, your boss, the president, Dr. Ruto, said he felt he was a lone voice in the executive. From your interaction, 50 days in, is he still a lone voice? And perhaps you interact with him, he's your boss.
I really don't know.
Do you think you're fulfilling?
I really don't know
do you think you're fulfilling
how he's
that?
feeling?
Yeah.
Because again, that's not in my place. I wouldn't know how he's feeling at the moment. All I can say is that I'm doing my best to do my constitutional duty. That constitutional duty is being principal assistant to the president, and also helping him in the delegated assignments that he has given me, and I'm doing my best. How he's feeling now, I cannot be, it's not in my place to tell you how happy he is. Or
do you think he's confident of what you're doing? Is he happy with
with your work? So. I have no reason to doubt that he's confident.
You've been deputy president for only 50 days now. What would you say is the qualitative difference between you and the former deputy president, given that the operating environment hasn't changed?
It would be very improper for me to start comparing myself with my brother, the second deputy president.
The president has spoken very highly of your leadership and your contributions, as my colleague George Maringa here says. If the president feels that he has accomplished his key goals and decides not to run for re-election, would you consider running yourself? Do you believe that you have what it takes to run the country?
That question is an unfair question. Am I allowed to complain?
Why is that?
It is an unfair question. Because I have just been entrusted with a very serious and grave national responsibility. What is weighing in my mind now, and what is really, really occupying me, is the desire to discharge those obligations, because the expectations of the people of Kenya, the expectations of the president are so high. If I started occupying myself with ideas of what will happen, I don't know when, I'll be the most unsuitable person to be seated before you today.
Your Excellency, I want to rephrase Michelle's question regarding you and the former deputy president. Let's not even go with the qualitative differences. But clearly there are lessons you must have learned from GACHAGUA's tenure in office. What lessons are those?
You know, my friend, you know, in leadership is defined by certain ethos and parameters. And I want to persuade you to allow me not to discuss my brother, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, because he's my friend. And you've not heard me bad-mouthing him anywhere before when he was in this office or even after he left office. So please spare me, because it is not right. It is wrong to start comparing myself with the predecessor or someone who occupied this office now or in the past, or a person who would occupy it in the future. Are you being
cautious, Your Excellency? The region you come from is very restive, and it's quite a significant, it has quite a significant portion in terms of votes. Are you being cautious now when I ask you the question of lessons you've learned? Are you being cautious not to antagonize the former deputy president?
I have no reason to antagonize anybody. For what?
Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, perhaps just to buttress on what John Kiore said, when it comes to lessons learned, many have said that the seat that you occupy now, the deputy presidency, has some sort of curse. They've called it the curse of the deputy presidency. And every individual who's held this seat has had some sort of, you know, falling into political oblivion. Do you believe that you have the magic wand to change this so-called curse of the deputy?
I don't believe any seat is cursed. Let's start from there. Secondly, I don't think it is a priority to start thinking whether I will survive in this seat or not. As I have said, what is weighing in my mind, the same way when I became Interior Minister and the North Rift was in that shape, Lamu, Boni was in that shape, and Northern Kenya was that shape. I told myself, including the passport crisis, I said, if I will last here for 1 year, I want to try my best and have these challenges under control. So for me, I cannot start now entertaining myself on what will happen to me, whether I'll succeed here or there. That's not for me to determine. It's beyond me. What is within my reach, what is within my control, is the focus to deliver on the job. As to whether I survive or what happens, that is not within my reach, and I cannot control what I cannot control.
DP, we need to move forward to the next topic, but I would like to end this with this question. The mountain which you seem to be avoiding is hostile ground right now, and not just the mountain. The government is struggling with its popularity. As the president's principal assistant, how are you working to change that perception of Kenyans? And more so those who are...
Did you say that the mountain is restive?
Yes. The reception in Embu, for example, in Nyandarua the other day, residents refused to listen to the president's speech. In Nakuru County, at a burial, again, they did not want to listen to the president's
That is democracy.
message.
That's how democracy works.
Is it that hostile democracy ground to the government that you serve as deputy president now?
You see, there is a difference between running governments and being popular. Those are two different things. And for me, a leader should be least worried about popularity. The worry of a leader should be their pace and focus on transforming the lives of the people.
And do you think the lives of the people have been transformed?
Leader is not necessarily one who is popular all the time. However, a good leader knows when to be popular.
Don't you think that popularity has gone down because Kenyans' lives
I really don't think so, because at the moment, President Ruto and his administration now in the midterm is not in their priority to look for popularity. There is no election taking place. The task of the government now at midterm is to track the pace of delivery, where there are gaps, seal those gaps, and just deliver on the commitments. The time will come when there will be popularity contests. And let me tell you, for avoidance of doubts, that is not President Ruto's worry. I now we'll lose it, time will elapse. We could even win the election next time, but we will not have delivered as we ought to deliver.
Your Excellency,
and that transformation that you're talking about, Ashley, allow me, is what brings us into the next topic, which is about the economy. And Joel Chacha is going to lead that session.
Well, the government of the day boasts of a 2.8% inflation rate, which is a 17-year low. But the question here is on the shrinking disposable income. That is through what many may consider overtaxation. And the purchasing power, hence, is low. How are you working to ensure that there is money in the pockets of Kenyans?
Thank you. When President Ruto took over leadership of this country in 2022, the 5 or 6 macroeconomic indicators were not looking good. And I need to clarify now that I have this opportunity. Many people think when we project that time frame so that to show the distance we have covered, we are casting aspersions at the previous administration.